least some sort of immigration bill is going to be passed this Congress. We're trying to look for some common ground. Mr. Beer, we've talked about this before. In the past, I've introduced something called the Safeguarding Benefits for Americans Act, which prevents non-citizens from receiving what we'll normally refer to as welfare benefits. I just want to confirm that you think that would be a good idea, probably improving the quality of immigrants we have coming here.
Absolutely. Immigrants should be self-sufficient when they come to the United States.
Very good. Well, there's maybe something we can receive bipartisan support for when we move an immigration bill. Next thing I'd like to point out, and Mr. Moore's always handled this to a degree, I want to point out that in the 14th Amendment, it does not say all persons born in the United States become citizens of the United States. It's all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That amendment was passed coming out of the Civil War. There's a reason it was passed coming out of the Civil War. Congress was afraid that the Democrats would try to undermine the results of that war by forbidding former slaves from voting. And clearly that's what the amendment was supposed to deal with. It did not include anybody who just happened to show up here and have a baby and moved on. Any congressman at that time, as can be seen from the debate on the floor at that time, no congressman felt that resulted in what we are now referring to as birthright citizenship. It was supposed to be limited to slaves. You did not have, you were not subject to the jurisdiction, or you were only subject to the jurisdiction thereof if you were a former slave. A person who came here from France and was just passing through, their child would not become a citizen. That should be obvious. Now, we want to get on to a few more questions. I'm going to ask these of Ms. Vaughn. When a child arrives at the border, okay, one of the heartbreaking stories you sometimes hear in this country is parents get divorced, one parent grabs the child and flees to somewhere like Pakistan or somewhere. The other parent is here in the United States and they can't get that child back. In other words, it results in a broken family, which is just horrible. And I do think we have to do all we can to keep families together. In this country, under the Biden administration before that, if a child shows up with one parent and they come in this country, is any effort made to see whether the local courts, say the child comes here from Guatemala, Cuba, wherever, that the local court has said that they want the parents separate, or do we just assume that the other parent would be okay with this and not seeing his child again?
Well, if you're referring to cases in which the child is seeking an order of protection from, say, a state family court, is that the scenario?
Well, let's say there's a divorce.
Or at the border itself? At the border, there, families who arrive, or a person who, or an adult who arrives with a child is not detained.
Right. Do you think there should be? Do you think that we should do something to make sure that we don't have a situation like I described, where one parent takes a child to Pakistan and they're gone? I mean, again, if a parent shows up at the southern, one parent with a child, we don't know where the other parent is. We don't know whether that parent is, the parent who shows up is fleeing the other parent, trying to raise that child without a parent. Is that of concern to you?
Well, it is, because our state family courts are not in a position to evaluate those claims made if the alien child, for example, is seeking a special immigrant juvenile visa, seeking to stay here permanently. There's just no way. They're not held to the same standards of evidence that, say, an American kid would have to receive an order of protection. So this leads to abuse.
You think it'd be a good idea when we pass our immigration law if we said that if a child is here with one parent, we have to make sure legally somehow that the other parent is okay with that, or it's in accordance with the local courts, and like I said, Guatemala, Cuba, wherever, that the local courts have said it's okay that we're permanently breaking up the family, which I think should happen very rarely.
Yeah, that's a tough thing for the American legal system to deal with, something that happened, a separation that occurred in the home country.
Well, we wouldn't have to
Yeah,
deal with the
gentlemen-
system if we
gentleman's
insisted having
time
both
has
parents here in the
expired.
first place.